To get started, I'm going to be using a 3.5mm crochet hook. So I want to take my yarn, make a slip knot, and then insert the hook, and then just pull the knot up against the hook, but not too tight so I can still make my next stitches. And I'm going to chain 4. And then I'm going to take my hook and insert it into the first stitch, and I'm going to wrap the yarn around, and then I'm going to pull the yarn through that gap and that one, and then I'm going to chain 3, and I'm going to work treble crochet into the gap that I've created there. I don't know if you can see it, and I want 12 treble crochet all the way around for my first row. So once I've got 12 treble crochet for my first row, I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch. So I'm going to insert into both sides of the stitch, and then pull through, and then pull through again. And now I want to do the second row, so I'm going to do 3 chains, and then I want to work 2 treble crochet into each stitch. So this should mean that I'll end up with 24 treble crochet for second row. So each time you go to the next stitch, you want to make sure you do 2 treble crochet in each. And you'll do this all the way around. So once you've done your treble crochet all the way around for your second row, you should have 24 treble crochet going around, and again you can slip stitch into the first stitch. And then for the third row, which will be my final row, I'm going to do my increases again. So I'm going to chain 3, and then I'm going to do 1 treble crochet into the first stitch, and then I'm going to do 2 treble crochet into the next stitch. And I'm going to repeat this again all the way around. So for the first one you do 1 treble crochet, and then for the second one you do 2 treble crochet into the same stitch, and this should leave you with 36 treble crochet once you've completed your third row. So once you've done your last treble crochet, you should have 36 treble crochet going all the way around, and as you did on the last 2 rows, you can just slip stitch to finish your circle, and then you can take your scissors and cut off a length of yarn. And I'm keeping it a little bit long afterwards because I'm going to sew 2 pieces together, but you could do this shorter if you want and just weave it in at the back. So you should end up with something that looks like this. So for the next part of your pattern, you want to make him or her smile. So the good thing about crochet here is that it gives you a really obvious line as you go around. Each circle is quite distinct, so you can use this as your guide to create the smile. So I'm going to take a darning needle, and I'm going to thread on some black yarn, and I'm going to work from the back. I'm just going to insert the needle through, and then I just want to work. There's an obvious gap where you've done each stitch, so I'm going to work in there each time and just thread this along to create the smile. So once you've got the smile as big as you want it, you can just work it back to fill in the gaps. I'm going to work out this side that I've just done, and then work it back in there, and this just covers up the gaps in between the stitches. So once you've done, you should have something that looks like this, and obviously you can make this as big or as small as you want. So I'm just going to turn it to the other side. I'm just going to do a knot to keep these pieces in place. You don't want to pull the knot too tight, just enough so it holds it secure. And then you can trim. and you should have something that looks like that. You just want to create the eyes. Now you could use buttons, like I've used buttons in some of them, but if you're making it for a very young child, I would recommend not using buttons and just using yarn again. So I'm going to demonstrate that for this one. So you can take the yarn that we were using before, and then you want to pick where you want to put the eyes. And you can just create the eyes by going through like that. And just do this as many times as you want to make the eye as distinct as you want it to be. So once you've done one side, you can do the same thing at the other side. Now you can always snip off your yarn and tie it if you want, but because I'm going to be covering up the back, I'm just going to go straight across with the same one. So once you've done your eyes, you should have something that looks like this, and again you can tie them at the back if you want, if your back's going to be covered up. And once you've done, you should have something that looks like this. So once you've finished, you could add a little bit of felt to the back just to cover up all the bits where your tail ends are, or you could sew it onto something which would also cover up the back. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make mine double-sided, so I've done two, and I'm going to sew them both together. So I'm going to use the tail ends here. I'm going to insert the yarn into my darning needle, and then I'm going to sew through this stitch, and then I'm going to sew through this stitch, and then I'm going to sew through the next one, and then through that one as well. So I'm doing both sides. So this is why I left a little bit of a tail end on for mine, but you could also leave that tail end on if you were going to sew it onto something as well. And I'm just going to do this until I'm about halfway around, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. So once you've done both sides, you can just sew into one of your circles so that you're leaving your tail ends in the centre. And then I'm going to take the tail ends and I'm just going to tie a knot. And then you can take the tail end that you're currently working with and you can just weave it in through the back. So you can pull your needle through like that, and then you can just snip that tail end right very close, and then it should pull in and be hidden inside. And then you want to do the same thing with this tail end. Once you've finished, you should end up with something that looks like this.